Hello and welcome to Portland State University Intermediate Excel. In this video we're going to be taking a deeper look into what's in a cell. So we've been talking about cells, and cells is the sort of the smallest thing that Excel is made up of. Everything is sort of based around cells, but I haven't really given you a good glance at what they are, and really Excel doesn't give you a good glance at what they are. You use them all the time, but you actually have to get pretty far in them to sort of figure out what's going on behind the scenes, unless somebody tells you, and that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to tell you. So some of the questions we're going to be asking today are, how does Excel get to the number I see on screen? So if I come over here and I type in this formula for this cell equals 120 plus 80, how does it get to this $200 figure that I see here? What process occurs to produce that? That's one of the questions we're going to ask. The next question is, what does Excel sees when it looks at a cell? So this is, I'm a human being, and when I look at a cell, I see this $200. Is this what Excel sees when it looks at a cell, or does it see something different? So if I come over here and I hit equal sign and I left click on here, now when I've got this reference to this cell up here, does Excel see this $200, or does it see something else? Well, it turns out it sees something else, and I'm going to show you what that is. I'm going to hit escape. And finally, the last question I'm going to ask, I'm asking it now, I'm going to answer it at the end of the video, is why does Excel say that the two cells below add up to $5.25? So here I've got $3, which is, currency. It's measured in currency. I've got the number 2, which isn't a currency. And over here, I've got this formula. I'm going to double click on it, show you that it's a formula. It's adding these two cells up, and when Excel evaluates that formula, it comes up with the number 525. But 3 plus 2 is 5, not 525. Where did that extra 25 cents come from? Well, by the end of this video, you'll know the answer to that. So let's move forward. Let's start by taking a quick glance at what is in a cell. Now, if you could take this cell here and sort of crack it open and look inside, you might see something that looked like this. This is a visualization of the inner workings of a cell. You see down here at the bottom of a cell is the cell address. So every cell has a cell address. So when I come over here and I type in equals and I click over here to J2, this J2 refers to the address of the cell J2. This is how Excel knows where to go find the value over here in J2, right? This is, just like a street address. It says how do you get to somebody. That will tell you how to get to somebody's house. This will tell the formula evaluator, the thing doing all the math and all the calculations, where to go get the number. Now there's nothing in there right now, so I'm just going to hit escape. Actually, no. Well, I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to double click again, and I'm going to hit equals. That value right there. So now I've told Excel I'm going to do a calculated formula, and I've pointed it at the cell address D2, and when I hit enter, I get $200. And so this equation is going over to the cell D2, and it's getting $200. Now let's go through. We're jumping ahead a little bit here. I'm going to step back. I'm going to ask the question, well, how did we get to this $200? How did I get from, double click, this formula here, the equals 120 plus 80, to the $200? I mean, where did that dollars thing come into play? Well, okay, so there's a couple things we've already seen. First is the $200, and even if you haven't watched the other video, you can look at this and see that figure $200, right? That's obvious. You've seen that before. And if you've watched the other videos, you've seen the formula before. And if you've watched me double click here, you can see the formula right now. This formula is the instructions telling Excel how to get the value 200, but it doesn't quite get all the way to $200. Again, where does that dollar figure come in? Well, if we look at this cell, we can see that a cell has a bunch of different stuff in it. Some stuff we've already seen, like here's the formula that I just talked about, and maybe here's the formatted value that I talked about. Notice it's here up at the top, because if you were looking down like this, this is the first thing you would see. It would obscure the view of all this other stuff. And when you double click, you get to see this formula right here. And that's what you're editing, is this formula down here. But those aren't the only things in a cell. You've got a bunch of other stuff too. There's a whole there's more things that I can even count, and most of them aren't really important for what we're talking about here. But it'll contain things like there'll be a little, you can imagine, is like a slip of paper that has the has whether or not the cell is bold on it, right? And you might have a little box that has what the background color of this cell is, right? And so if I change the background color of a cell, if I come up here and I go to home and I click the light blue, for instance, this background color property is technically what it's called, would change, right? But all those things aren't super important in the process we're talking about now. I just want you to know that they're back there. It's not just these things that we're talking about today, but I do want to focus on these guys right here, because this is sort of the chain of how you get from a formula to that formatted value. So we've seen this. What are these guys here? Okay, so you type a formula into a cell, and you hit enter. What happens is then Excel, it goes through this process here where it evaluates the formula, which is to say it does the math. So it adds 120 to 80, and it gets the number 200. Okay, that makes sense. But how do we get to $200? That's what's the missing link? Well, the missing link is this rendering process here, where you take the value of 200 that we got from evaluating the formula, and we apply the number formatting. And the number formatting is the instructions that the user, which is you and me, give Excel as to how we would like to show this number to the user, right? So if I go up here and I click over here, you get the different number formats, right? And so you've got, you could do like a regular number, you could add currency, you could make it look like accounting. Oh, you can't see that. Let me pick a better one. Let me just go with like a regular, let's go with general. And so I've basically changed I mean, this is just a picture, so it's not updating as I type, but you can imagine that I've gone and I've changed the number format of this cell from what was currency with, displaying 2 decimals, that's what that /2 is, to now it's just no special formatting. Just show the number and don't, show 0 decimals. So when I type a formula into a cell, it evaluates the value. It comes up with a number, right? It comes up with a number or a value. And then it applies, in the rendering process, the number format that I've selected. And it comes up with a formatted value. And this is what you actually see. So that's the most basic workflow. Let's complicate things just a little bit. Okay, so over here, we've now got 2 cells. We've got the cell D2 and the cell K2. D2 is exactly like it was before. Notice that I've sort of reset it to... the number is the same as before, but the number formatting is once again currency with 2 decimal places. So there's a little dollar sign because it's currency, and then there's 2 decimal places. And what's different over here is now we've introduced this new cell K2. And if you come over here to the formula for K2, you'll notice that the formula for K2, if you click on it, you can see that this is accurate. It references this cell D2, right? So if I double click on it, you'll notice there's D2, it's blue, and there it is selected over there. This formula includes a reference to this cell over here. It says, go get something from this cell, go get the number from this cell and divide it by 1,000. And what's really important here, and the reason I'm showing you this graphic, is that when you hit enter after you've entered the formula, and Excel goes into the evaluation process, when it goes to grab something from D2, it doesn't go up here to grab the formatted value. It goes and it grabs the internal value, right? So that 200, before we've put the dollar sign in front of it and added some what do you call it? Not decimal points, but boy, my mind's a blank here. I'm just going to go here and cheat. The showing more decimal places. That's the word I was looking for. Boy, I feel silly. We aren't pulling the finished value, the value that the human being sees. What we're pulling is the value at the end of the evaluation process. And by the way, if you want to see what that kind of looks like, that evaluation process, you can double click on a cell to go back into the formula mode. And if you highlight the entire thing and hit the F9 button, it'll evaluate anything that's been highlighted. So I'm gonna hit F9, And this 200, it just evaluated what I had selected. This 200 is what Excel puts in this box right here. I'm going to hit Control Z and enter. Okay, and notice also that it's taken this 200, it's taken the 200, which it's gotten from over here, from the internal value, not the formatted value. It's divided it by 1,000, and it's come up with this value of 0.2, because that's what 200 divided by 1,000 is 0.2. But when it shows 0.2, it doesn't just take this 0.2 and just show it up here, by itself. It applies the number formatting that we've selected for up here. And the number format that we've selected is % with 0 decimal points. And so when it'll take this 0.2, it'll apply this custom number formatting, and it will end up with this formatted value of 20%. By the way, if I go up here, and I'm just going to enter the number 15 so you can see how this is done. In fact, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to hit delete. I'm going to put it over here so you could see what I'm doing. Type in 15, hit enter. I'm going to select it again. I'm going to go up here to home, and I'm going to change the number formatting. Right now it's on general, which is the equivalent of having this property here say no instructions. Just take the internal value and just show it to them as it is. Don't modify it in any way. But if I go up here and I click and I type in, say, currency, notice now, like basically what I did is I changed the number format to this number format, which is currency. There's a $sign there and 2 decimal points. If I want to, I can go and I can increase the number of decimal points. I can decrease the number of decimal points, and I can also change it to a percentage. Now I don't know how good your math is, but that is actually correct. That's what the number 15 is in percent. Okay, so let's move forward a little bit. So I'm going to answer a couple sort of miscellaneous type questions. So what happens when you type in a number that looks like a formatted value? So if I type in the number $25 and I hit enter, you might think that the formula is $25, and that's not correct. Excel is smart enough to know that when you type that in, what you meant to say was that you wanted the number 25. This is incorrect. No, that's perfectly correct. But you wanted the custom number format to be currency. So even though you typed in $25, it was smart enough to automatically correct that for you. And if you double click, you'll see that it's removed the $sign for you, and it's changed it to a currency format. So what happens when you type in a number with a % sign? Interestingly enough, if I type in, say, equals 50% and I hit enter, it's smart enough to know that what I meant was take 50 and divide it by 100, which is what % means. It means divide by 100. So it's automatically taken that. Notice that the % sign is still in the formula, and when it evaluates it, it evaluates to 0.5. So I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to double click on it again, and now I'm going to do 50% times 50% just to really drive the issue home. And if you know, mathematically 50% times 50% is 25%, so let's see if Excel gets it right. 25%, there you go. Okay, also, is the internal value always the thing that Excel looks at? And the answer is no. 99% of the time, when you point to a cell, Excel is going to go get the internal value. But not 100% of the time. There are certain functions and things you could do that get different things from the cell. The easiest and most common example is something like the row function. So I'm going to do the row function. Type in equals row, open parentheses, and I'm going to type it. I'm going to click this guy right here, so it's going to go to that cell. And notice when I hit enter, rather than getting 200, I get 2. The reason is, double click to open up the formula. The row function, instead of going up here to get the internal value, actually will go to one of these other properties, more specifically the row property, and get the value there. So when I say row of D2, rather than getting the internal value of D2, what it does is it goes and finds what row is D2 in. And that can be, I don't really want to get into why that function is particularly handy, but it is. And it's also a good example of why the internal value isn't the only thing that Excel looks at, but 99% of the time it is. Okay, I'm going to hit enter. So let's sum up. I think we've this is actually kind of tricky the first time you look at it. So why don't we just finish up and move on to the next video. So things that I want you to walk away with after watching this video. What you see in a cell is the internal value reformatted to be more visually useful to viewers. So if I type in 20 and I hit enter, and I go up to home and I change the number format to currency, I've added 2 decimal points and I've added a little $ in front of the number to make it more useful to look at for viewers. Because maybe I want to express this number as if it were a $, but Excel doesn't really care about the $. It'll show the humans that, but when Excel looks at the cell, it's not interested in that. It's only interested in the internal value, which brings me to my next conclusion. When you reference a cell in another formula, it goes after the internal value, not the formatted value. So if I'm down here and I say, what is this plus 20, and I evaluate it and I select the whole thing and I hit F9, what I get is 40. So it's not pulling the currency from it, it's only pulling the initial value. Hit escape. So the other huge takeaway is that the number you see may not be the same number that Excel sees. So we come back and we answer our question that we brought up at the very beginning of the video. Why does this cell right here, which is adding these 2 cells together, think that the sum of $3 and the number 2 is 525? Well, the reason is that this number 2 right here it's formatted to look like just the number 2, because it's got 0 decimal places, but if you double click on it, it's actually the number 225, right? So if I come up here, go to home, I can increase the decimal places. And I have to do it correctly. Oh, that's why, because I'm up there. I'm increasing the decimals of G1, which is not helpful. Increase that. You'll see that the actual internal value of this cell is 225, right? And the internal value of this cell isn't $3, it's just the number 3, right? And so when I double click here and I highlight the entire thing and I hit F9, it's going to grab the number 3, the number 225, add them together and get the number 525. I'm going to hit escape. And the reason that it's displaying this as $5.25 is because I have changed the number format to currency, and I could just as easily change it to general, and now it no longer shows that $. So I do hope that was kind of illuminating, and I hope you have a better idea of what things are inside of a cell and how Excel gets to the number that you see on the screen, and also how Excel grabs values from other cells. And I hope you will be able to avoid issues like this where you get tricked by thinking that a number is something that it isn't just because the number of decimal points is different. Well, I do hope that video was helpful, and I will see you next time.